For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates. This is StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh, Revi, and you're watching our weekly flagship show, The Talking Point. Extremely glad to be joined by Babushkin. He's the Deputy Chief of Mission at the Russian Federation's Embassy in India. Mr. Babushkin, great to see you in person. I mean, we've done interviews online before. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amitabh. Thank you. Pleasure.
It's obvious what we are talking about. Extremely symbolic, yet extremely significant visit of President Vladimir Putin. His first bilateral visit, if you can call it that, because technically this is the only country that he's going to have a bilateral. Geneva was a third country where he went to meet President Biden. What were the expectations from Russia, and how do you see the outcome?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your interest. However, but before we start discussing the details about the summit, let me join the condolences which were, recently expressed due to the sudden and very unfortunate demise of General Rawat, the members of his family, and other officers in the very unfortunate helicopter crash. It was a big loss for India and for Russia, since General Rawat was a strong supporter of the development of our bilateral, special and privileged strategic partnership. Russia is mourning together with India over such a...
And you would have seen him in person just a few days ago, right?
Correct. The day before yesterday, during the day of the summit, when we both sides had the 2+2 dialogue, we were sitting at the same table. I didn't believe that news.
Absolutely tragic and shocking. Thank you for your condolences, Mr. Babushkin. But now that you started on that subject, because the helicopter was a Russian V-17V, would there be any coordination between the companies, the governments, into the inquiry, or what really went wrong?
We know that this machine is a very reliable one. It has been using for decades and upgraded many times. So the machine which was used, according to the news which are coming from the TV reports and others, so this machine was comparatively new. And so let's see, it's very difficult to tell at the moment what was the reason that, and according to the sources, investigation is going on, and whatever assistance the Indian side would require, the Russian side would be ready to render.
On the summit, the 2+2, there were bilateral meetings between both foreign ministers and defense ministers, the technical commission also meeting. So much packed in so short a time.
I would tell you that it was quite a short notice announcement before the summit took place, last maybe 1 month or around 1 month. It was, it was not expected before. However, it was a long-awaited event because it is of tremendous importance. It combined, a lot of, consecutive events, starting with the important Intergovernmental Commission on Military and Technical Cooperation, then Foreign Ministers component. They had a bilateral meeting. Then Foreign and Defense Ministers came together for the first ever 2+2 dialogue between India and Russia, and then actually the day was successfully concluded by the meeting of our leaders. In fact, we proceed from the understanding that this summit was of special meaning for both sides. And not only like that, it was of a special meaning for the world itself, because it upgraded our special and privileged strategic partnership to a new level and introduced the new mechanism of our partnership with a 2+2 dialogue, because it would really bring our cooperation and coordination on global and regional affairs further, since we are facing the same challenges and threats globally and regionally. There are the negative tendencies. There is a spread of confrontational approaches, of unilateral solutions and sanctions, attempts to politicize the activities of international organizations. We are global powers. Russia and India are global powers who are standing with confidence in favor of just and equal and predictable multipolarity based on the central role of the United Nations, on its charter, on international law. And the same approach we are eagerly promoting within the framework of the international institutions we are part of, like BRICS, like SCO, like RIC and others. So our relations are not targeted against any other country.
Not targeted at any other country, but one of the key pillars between India and Russia, and of course going back to India and the Soviet Union, has been defense cooperation. A lot of talk about the S-400s. Your officials have confirmed, our officials have confirmed that delivery has started. Operationalization should begin soon as well. What can you tell us about the S-400 delivery and operationalization?
I would invite you to some broader picture, because Russia doesn't have any such relations with any other country in general. It's not about particular contracts, it's not about particular deals, because, however, the number of deals in our portfolio exceeding or almost reaching $15 billion is very impressive. This is a very trusted, decades-long friendship and future-oriented partnership for the sake of peace and stability in the region and in the world. We have successfully crossed the level of buyer-seller relations in our defense cooperation. We have dramatically increased the scale and depth of our partnership. It's now more about sharing of sophisticated technologies, which is not the case with some other countries. It is about joint development and research. It is about co-production. It is about increasing levels of localization according to the Make in India program. We are trying to correspond to the requirements of the Indian partners and Indian friends, of course, for the benefit of the Indian people, Indian industry, and Indian national security, which is the most important item. And we have developed quite comprehensive legal network for our cooperation, which is making the above aspects possible, including the very important one, intergovernmental agreement of 2019, signed in Vladivostok, which would enable our enterprises and entities to get together and jointly produce spare parts, components, and other important equipment for the Soviet and Russian origin hardware and machines, so that to expand, to involve into this partnership private sector and non-governmental units. And certainly this is the relations which would see even more deals, even more interactions, since it is further shaped into the network of the 10 years a long-term program for the development of our defense cooperation that would facilitate our interaction. And many deals, many agreements are coming in line of this particular program. So, and we are quite confident that our nature of pre-planned arrangements in our defense cooperation would bring good results in terms of the goals we are setting before us. And as far as particular projects and contracts is concerned, S-400 you mentioned, this is a very important symbol of the advanced nature of our partnership and a very strong example of the Indian sovereignty in terms of choosing its partners according to the national interests and unacceptability of any
Despite threats of US sanctions.
Unlawful competition, yes, and pressure and blackmailing, whatever. That's what how can we assess this step, this move, and we are very proud that we have achieved such level of cooperation.
So are we moving forward even further? Because in Dubai during the air show, I think one of the officials talked about S-500 and the upgradation. India would be first on that. Defense Minister Shoigu saying that 550 is already being worked on.
I would say that the sky is the limit.
Good answer, good short answer. I remember the last time we did an interview on online, and we were talking about, say, another particular aspect of defense cooperation, which was the Brahmos. We were talking about how exports to third countries would work, and we know that whether it's in Southeast Asia, whether in the Gulf, even South America, countries have expressed interest for that. Where does that currently stand? Because we thought possibly something would come out in this interim period.
Brahmos is an example of our defense partnership, which we can be proud of, and it has a long history, and we have developed the capabilities how to upgrade further this missile according to the new requirements. And this intention, which is supported by the governments of both countries, to start exporting it to third countries, is a clear demonstration of how successful this project is. I wouldn't, share much details about that, since actually the dialogue is going on. But what is obvious, what we can see, that the interest to get such missile is expressed by dozens of countries, and we will proceeding, one by one, because this is quite a sophisticated and at the same time sensitive area.
You talked about geopolitics currently. Now, the confluence between India and Russia in many areas is there to see. But how does Russia see India over the years getting closer to the United States? And how do you see India, the conflict with China and Russia's equation with China? How does all of that come into one?
There is a globalized world, of course, and we didn't intend ever to impose any restrictions on our Indian friends to independently decide whom countries to cooperate with. Of course, the US is very important for India, given the nature of the people-to-people ties, of the importance and prestige to get the education or employment in the US. The US is one of the most important sources for the Indian economy in terms of trade and investment. And there is about 4 million people of the Indians living in the United States as diaspora. So the relationships are very important and cannot be overestimated. And that's why it's natural. That's why it's natural that India has a diversified foreign policy according to the national interest. We are quite sure at the same time that all the Indian partners are participating in the bilateral relations or multilateral engagements. They would keep in mind the Russian concerns and sensitivities. So because whatever the US is concerned, so obviously we can see that sometimes there are attempts to impose some confrontational agenda to divide the world into some like-minded countries, satellites, or non-desired countries, which are labeled as non-democratic. And we, quite soon, we will be having the Summit for Democracy, which is a very strange initiative to our point of view, because it is not clear what kind of criteria were used by the US to invite countries who are democratic, who are non-democratic. memories are very fresh that this possession for democratization of other countries of the US, how much it costed to countries like Libya, like Syria, like Iraq, like even Afghanistan. This experience showed that 20 years of democratization attempts led to the speedy withdrawal of the American and other NATO troops from the country. That's why we proceed from the understanding that no one, and the US, of course, have no right to teach the democracy and to decide what is good, what is wrong in terms of national statehood building of the country. We believe in the dialogue of civilization, and we are quite like-minded with India in this regard. We respect the diversity of the world. We have a different political culture, and it would be really not correct from the political point of view, from the all other points of view, to characterize who is democratic, who is not democratic. So then again, we are coming to this policy. This is an attempt to construct a unipolar world once again, and to divide it into the like-minded and others. And these efforts are being also made in other dimensions, in other regions, like, for example, in the Asia-Pacific region, for example, when some Western countries openly say that their Indo-Pacific strategies are targeted against Russia and China, because they openly say that Russia and China are threats. So, and instead of dialogue, they choose confrontation. They choose the course for reshaping the regional supply chains designed for democratic societies, especially, so which is basically not inclusive. And moreover, trying to involve in these endeavors some members of ASEAN, which would really potentially could lead to the devastation of the existing architecture of cooperation and security in the region. It would undermine the central role of ASEAN, and even more so, AUKUS, the newly constructed trilateral arrangement, is far more away from the principles of cooperation Russia and India, for example, are standing for real inclusivity, for the respect of international law, respect of the central role of the United Nations. And because these trilateral arrangements would clearly potentially lead to the arms race there in the region.
Mr. Babushkin, but what about the relationships that Russia has, the partnership with China? And you've talked about India and the US and our sovereign decisions to expand or diversify relations. But especially at this moment when over the last year or so, more than that, there have been deadly clashes between India and China. Of course, Russia played host when Indian ministers and Chinese ministers talked in Moscow. And
that's an important aspect, but let us start with the the basic idea that this is very unfortunate for Russia. It's very unfortunate for the regional stability that there is some disagreement between India and China, and even clashes took place, and which created some problems for restarting the constructive dialogue between the countries, although there are dedicated mechanisms between the two, so that actually the armies and diplomats could interact with each other and bring the mutually acceptable solution to the table. We hope that it would happen. This is something which Russia is paying the priority attention when we speak about the stability in Eurasia. We are not interfering in these relations between India and China, because it's up to you to how to find the mutually acceptable solution. At the same time, we are ready to provide favorable conditions for the countries to have more dialogue between them. You remember that Russia provided a couple of times. Russia provided a platform of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization twice, I think, already in the previous years, and once the two foreign ministers met in Tajikistan, also on the sidelines of the SCO events, importantly. So that means just very important one thing, that SCO is a very convenient platform for the countries to proceed with the cooperation to expand mutual interests, to expand common ground in finding some more options for the dialogue. We have at the same time a dedicated RIC, Russia, India, China dialogue mechanism, trilateral one, which, by the way, took place quite recently, last month in November. India was hosting the meeting, virtual meeting of ministers of foreign affairs, because we believe that there are much more aspects which unite us rather than divide. We are proceeding from the same understanding of the necessity of just, equal and predictable multipolarity, of undivided security in the region. That means that when it comes to any particular regions, and any particular situations, no one should ensure its security at the expense of others. Otherwise, it would be the violations of the UN Charter. So we have the same understanding of everything. But importantly, that unfortunately this misunderstanding and disagreements are widely being used by the outside players and their narrow-minded geopolitical purposes, creating the atmosphere of instability and confrontation in the broader region. That is something which we should avoid. And I would tell you even more than making the next step. We are introducing the concept of greater Eurasian partnership, which would create some platform for facilitated dialogue between the international regional organizations in the region, based on the principles of inclusivity, undivided security, to jointly deal with our common challenges and threats, like what we are facing currently. And for example, the SCO has established relations with ASEAN, and we are looking forward to for the European Union to join this initiative, because actually it is very close to the idea which was developed in the 1980s and 1990s to ensure the Eurasian security from Lisbon to Vladivostok. This is the next step in this direction.
You talked about the American construct of the Indo-Pacific, or the architecture that is. India has gone officially from the top, from Prime Minister's Shanghai conference, when he talked about what India's vision of the Indo-Pacific, which Russia still calls Asia-Pacific, is. Has there been, after so much dialogue and between the two sides, has there been any congruence in terms of the idea of India's Indo-Pacific and your Asia-Pacific?
I would...
that it's not the American construct.
I would invite you to have a look at the situation from a bit different perspective. The point is that there is a growing mutual interest from Russia and India to cooperate in the maritime domain in general, including in the Indian Ocean. Russia recently, also with the Indian support, joined IORA as a dialogue partner. So our approaches are similar. We want this cooperation to be inclusive, guided with the principle of undivided security. So we explained that to ensure the security not at an expense of any other country. It should be based on the strict compliance with the international law and UN Charter. And the clear manifestation of this similarity is the participation of the Russian President Vladimir Putin in the Prime Minister Modi chaired UN Security Council open debate on maritime cooperation, yes, during the Indian chairmanship in the Security Council in August. So this is a clear demonstration how close we are, how prospects are there, between our countries to cooperate in the maritime domain, and basically we understand each other very well in this regard. The point is that we have questions to the Indo-Pacific strategies which are promoted by some countries, which are in fact confrontational. That is something which is raising a lot of questions, which is not serving the interests of the regional stability.
In terms of interest, the last summit, which took place 2 years ago, 2019, in Vladivostok, there was so much on the Russian Far East, India's investment there, credit lines of $1 billion. It's also talk of the Vladivostok-Chennai maritime route. Mm-hmm. Has anything actionable happened in the last 2 years to further that goal?
Of course. The Russian Far East has become this very strong dimension of our special and privileged strategic partnership. A lot has been done during this period of time. So, a lot of events took place, dedicated events, dedicated visits, including the very important visit of the Indian Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister to Vladivostok to attend the 6th Eastern Economic Forum, and important meetings took place on the government level with his Russian counterparts, with the private sector. And then we are advancing in the areas of diamond industry. We are advancing in the areas of investment in the smart cities and technology and science, with the development of relations between universities in the Far Eastern Federal University and Amitabh are proceeding further in their relations and exchanges. And this is a happy moment for us as well, and it is a good example that this dimension is working very well. Then the feasibility study for the Vladivostok-Chennai maritime sea route is about to complete very soon. It would expand our connectivity options between the two countries. It would facilitate the Indian access to the Russian Far Eastern opportunities and access to the Arctic. So where we also have a lot of ideas how can we cooperate together.
Mr. Babushkin, there is so much to talk about. We could go on for a longer time, but I think I'll leave that for the next time that we have a chat. Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you for hosting us at the embassy, first of all, giving us time and speaking to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for all our viewers out there, do keep sending in your comments and questions if you have any on this particular show and, of course, our other shows. If you already subscribe to us, help spread the word about StratNews Global. If you're new on this channel, do check out our work. This is The Talking Point on StratNews Global. I'm Amitabh Revi.